Welcome to Deep in the Stripes. The bye is finally over, and you are watching the sickest Bengals podcast around. I am your host, Elise Jesse. We're going to jump into Bengals and Steelers, what this means for we're going to focus more on the Bengals because that's who we care about in the city, right? So we're going to focus on the Cincinnati Bengals. I really want to focus in on matchups to look at. I think there's some interesting matchups in this game, and also how the Bengals can win their final 6 games of the regular season. If they want to make the playoffs, they've got to start winning these. They've definitely got to beat Pittsburgh twice, and they have to beat Denver. So those 3 games, absolute must wins. We're going to dig in right now.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Deep in the Stripes with Elise Jesse.
From 31 yards. McPherson, and Cincinnati is heading to the Super Bowl. They did it. They beat Mahomes at home. Wow, Joe Burrow. No way.
The sickest Cincinnati Bengals podcast. It's gonna be sick.
All right, guys. So right away, I want to give you guys the rankings for the Bengals and the Steelers on either side of the ball, just so that we can have a jumping point, like a point where we're jumping off off the diving board into this matchup. Okay, so net offense total for the Bengals, they ranked 9th. The Steelers rank 18th. Obviously, the Cincinnati Bengals have Joe Burrow, so they are scoring points left and right, and they also have Jamar Chase, T. Higgins when he's healthy, and so their offense is just potent. How the Steelers defense will stop that. I mean, they have the capability to. They're one of the best tackling defenses in the NFL, so we'll dig into that as well. As far as rushing, obviously the Bengals are more of a pass-heavy team, so they rank 27th in rushing. Steelers rank 8th. As far as passing goes, obviously the Bengals rank 1st in that category. The Steelers rank 26th. Now, defensively, rushing, Bengals, they're at 21st, and the Steelers pretty high up there, top 5. They are 4th in stopping the run. They only allow 90.3 yards per game. And then passing, Bengals 23rd and the Steelers 17th on that front. It's an AFC North, not wild card, an AFC North matchup. These are always physical. These are always intense. It doesn't matter if you have a new team, a new coach, new play. It does not matter. It's the AFC North. You saw how Cleveland came out to play the Steelers last week. It is cutthroat. It is a dogfight. And I know that those are little cliches that people use, but it is absolutely true within the AFC North between these teams. They're among these teams, I guess I should say. Pittsburgh does allow 4 yards per carry. And this is a game where if you're looking at the Cincinnati Bengals offense, yes, Joe Burrow just lights everybody up, typically outside of New England. I think this is a game where they could rely a little bit more on Chase Brown. I think Chase Brown could be a player who has a big game on Sunday against the Pittsburgh Steelers. We saw how he was against the Chargers before the bye. 143 all-purpose yards, 22 carries for 86 yards, 5 catches for 57. I think that he could have another big game as far as all-purpose yardage is concerned. I think that he would present a big problem for the Steelers defensively. And as far as Bengals defense, obviously Trey Hendrickson is one of the top rusher in the NFL right now. And he is going against an offensive line who has had injuries. They are very young, especially at center, a rookie. They're younger on the right side of the line as well. So I think that Trey Hendrickson could really have a productive day, I guess we should say, on Sunday. Let's look at Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson is actually quite interesting, I think, in this matchup. He's obviously a veteran. He's obviously very accurate. He's 7-2 touchdown to interception ratio so far this season. But he does struggle under pressure. And I think that's where Trey Hendrickson really comes in, because Trey I expect Trey to make his life an absolute living hell. And I think he should prepare for that. Now, Russ, this is actually kind of weird. Russ has a 53.3 pass grade, ranking him 17th 19th among quarterbacks with at least 50 dropbacks. That stat is from Pro Football Focus. Obviously, his favorite target is George Pickens. Najee Harris is kind of interesting. Obviously, the Steelers decided to not give him the 5th-year option. So he will be a free agent after this season. And he had a productive October. He had 3 straight games where he rushed for over 100 yards or more. But in November, for whatever reason, he has yet to eclipse 100 yards rushing. He has not been as productive this month. But the wild thing about Najee, I believe, please tell me in the comments if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that he has not missed a game in 3 years. Is that correct? I don't know where I read that a couple days ago, but I was like, what? Because in the NFL, one of your top abilities in this league is your availability. If you are available for your coach, that is incredible. If you were able to play for 3 straight years without an injury, that's big time on him if that is true. All right, Steelers defense. I'm worried about the Steelers defense a little bit. They have a 90.3 pass rush rate, which ranks first. Steelers just dominated on 3rd down against the Browns. Obviously, the Browns were 1 of 10 on 3rd down. So the Cincinnati Bengals are really going to have to be locked in, dialed in on 3rd down. Obviously, they have to just play lights out. I'm like giving you all these stats. I'm like worried that you guys are not going to have like the key stat to the game. I'm just gonna chill out here for a second. It's a new season for the Cincinnati Bengals at this point. That's what it is. That's how, for my understanding, over 10 years covering the NFL, Bengals players and typically coaches as well treat the season or the games after the bye as a brand new season. So they've had time to rest. They have had time to rejuvenate. And now they're looking at the next 6 games as a brand new season, brand new slate. And teams across all sports do this. I know in college basketball, once you hit conference play, you look at it as almost a brand new season. Or if you get into March Madness, you look at that as a brand new season. And that can give you a lot of energy if you go in with that kind of mindset, thinking that right now, think of it as a clean slate. You just have to go 6-0. And I think that that's how the Bengals would look at it. Breaking news, by the way, the Cincinnati Bengals added the ping pong tables back into the locker room. So if you have been following the Bengals, you know that Cincinnati redid their locker rooms. They made it much more bougie, much nicer. I think, Joe Burrow has his little fridge and everything, his setup like right next to his locker and everything. So he's got like the bougiest locker I've ever seen. But they took out the ping pong tables, and that was actually kind of shocking because the ping pong tables have been there for a couple of years, maybe 3 years. And oh my gosh, the way that the players have so much fun with those ping pong tables, and it just kind of, I feel like it would bring different players, maybe rookies or like guys who wouldn't normally be in the mix with like a veteran or a guy on the other side of the ball that he doesn't really interact with much. If they're playing ping pong, they can get to know each other, and it just brings a ton of camaraderie into that locker room. I think that that's one of the biggest things that's been missing in the locker room. I was asking about it after the first game, after they lost to New England. And I was just like, I wonder, like, why aren't the ping pong tables in there still? Like, it just brought such a light kind of vibe in there. And I think that that is really something that has been missing. And I know it's ping pong tables, but I'm telling you, that has something to do with the players being on the same page and just being more of a cohesive unit rather than each guy playing and worrying about himself, if that makes sense. What else? We have to talk about Joe Mixon as well, because obviously he did an interview with Josina Anderson and that kind of blew up. But all right, fine. We'll just get into it. Sammy made me a lovely graphic, and this is Just a quote from Joe, as you can see, it says, when it comes down to it, I'm going to do what the coach wants me to do. But at the same time, I'm going to play football. That's just what it is. You're not going to turn me into a robot. One thing that I can appreciate here in Houston is they utilize my skill set. So obviously Joe Mixon feeling very strongly about the way that his coaches utilize him in Houston. But you do have to listen to, I think, the entire 33-minute interview. I believe, it was over 30 minutes that he was sitting with Josina Anderson. And there were other things that he also said. He said he loved every single minute in Cincinnati. He also said that he was trying to take what he learned from watching Joe Burrow, like how Joe Burrow prepared, how he took care of his body, how he approached certain things within the league, and kind of bring that and help it and apply it almost to CJ Stroud and help CJ Stroud because he's such a younger player. And he also just said that, he didn't have any hard feelings. Obviously he had some hiccups with the media. And I said this on Twitter. I don't totally remember what the beef was between Joe Mixon and the media. I do remember it being a thing, but for the most part, I just try to stay out of it. And if you have beef with me, I'll deal with you. But if you're not beefing with me, I'm really just trying to stay away from that, like push that off to the side, because I don't care about it. And I have had my own beef with players in the past, but it has not been something that has carried on for a very long. I don't know why everyone's blowing up about Joe Mixon. To me, when I was listening to that interview, it just sounded like to me like he was just being honest, and he wasn't not holding back, but he wasn't going to sugarcoat anything. As long as I've known him, he's never sugarcoated anything. And I remember when he first came into the league and they drafted him, and obviously that video of his college days played out and it was horrible. And I remember seeing that video too. And I was just like, okay, as a reporter, a local TV reporter in Cincinnati, I'm like, I see the video, I see the hot takes about him, I see everyone's opinion on him, but I have to make my own opinion about this person based on my interactions with him. Like, I am not going to come in with a prejudgment of him. I'm going to see how he looks at me in the face. How does he treat me? How does he speak to me? And those things were really important. And when I sat down with him, I've never seen so many media in my life in Paycor Stadium now to interview a player than there was for Joe Mixon. Maybe Joe Burrow might be a close second, but I believe in my head that Joe Mixon had the most media I've ever seen. They like capture interviews. You had to do like group interviews because there's so many people there. You would have groups of people and you would only interview him for 10 minutes. And there was someone who was literally timing it. And after 10 minutes, they would cut you off. Interview was over. And so I thought he did really well in that scenario, considering. And I mean, I didn't have any beef with the guy. Truly, just I was kind to him. He was nice to me, and he did his job. I did my job. There you go. You know what I mean? So I think sometimes the players will look. I remember Adam Pacman Jones at one time too had a huge problem with media, and it was about something that the beat writer wrote about him or something like that. He had a big problem and called him out in the middle of a big scrum, and that was kind of crazy. But yeah, there are players who pay attention to what reporters write and what people say. Some players do pay attention to that, and other players could give a rip. So it just depends on who you're dealing with, to be honest. But yeah, that interview happened. I think Joe Mixon is much better off in Houston. And I think he is in a position where he is able to use his leadership skills. He's a very vocal player, especially in the locker room. I think he's able to use those leadership skills with a very young team in Houston, a young quarterback like CJ Stroud. Obviously, I think that the Bengals could use more of a vocal player, a vocal leader within their locker room currently. And I know Joe Burrow has said that he has thought about and gone back and forth about, stepping up and being that vocal leader. But I don't think that any player should force it if it's not there, if that's not their personality. Like, don't be a hype person if you're not a hype person. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if they can find somebody to be the vocal leader. I think Jamar Chase has, come out, and he's been put on the spot a little bit, being asked about certain players, but he doesn't hold back. And he does seem like he is a really good teammate to a lot of those guys in the locker room. So that good on him. That's a good teammate. That's a good thing that you need within that locker room. Jamar Chase is that. So yeah, it would obviously benefit the Cincinnati Bengals if they were able to extend Jamar Chase and give him the money that he is looking for. But we will not debate that today. We are trying to remain positive in this in this podcast episode today. It is so, like, it's obviously I rant because I'm like, what is going on? Like, you know my qualms with the team. But I'm trying to keep it positive today because we have nothing to rant about. We've already ranted to exhaustion the defense and the tackling and just the mess that we have seen. But I'm going to also treat this like a brand new season. So the slate is clean for the Cincinnati Bengals. They have got to win 6 games. 2 of those are Pittsburgh, 1 Denver, and another one Cleveland. And all know it doesn't matter. Cleveland has nothing to play for. But and I think it's not the final game. It's like the last. It's Cleveland, Denver, and then Pittsburgh. Cleveland will come out swinging. That's just how they roll. That's how they've been since I've been covering this league. Back to the Steelers-Bengals matchup. Steelers, second highest team, and they have for their tackling grade. It's a 72.6. That's according to PFF. That does worry me. I think the Cincinnati Bengals, they have to play, like they have to elevate their play one more tick in the final 6 games. Like it's got to be a different type of sense of, I want to see sense of urgency, especially from Cincinnati's defense these last 6 games. I think that needs to be there if they are going to win. And obviously for the Cincinnati Bengals offense, when they do see their defense get off the field on 3rd down, if the Cincinnati's defense does get turnovers, Cincinnati's offense has got to capitalize. They have got to get into the red zone and cash the check in the red zone. They have to do that. There is no other option. And Pittsburgh has shown us that they can just send Chris Boswell out there and they can win a game with Chris Boswell scoring all the points. They are perfectly comfortable with that. That's what they did against the Ravens. They have no issue with that. If you've got an accurate kicker, oh my gosh, where's Boswell? I wrote this down somewhere, you guys, but I don't know exactly where I put it. He's like a 100% on extra points. And I believe this is from memory. I believe he's like 97% on field goals this year. Incredible. He is a money kicker right now in the NFL, where in a year where we are seeing guys like Evan McPherson have one of the toughest years of his career. And we're also seeing a guy like Justin Tucker having one of the toughest years of his career. It would be nice if Evan McPherson could get back on track and bring that confidence up. Obviously, a lot of people have been calling for him to get cut. They don't understand his contract extension. They're peeved, obviously, about his inaccuracy this season. But at the end of the day, like, you still kind of got to root for the guy. If you root for this team, you want to see these players do well. And from a reporter standpoint, I'm not a fan, but I am a reporter who wants to enjoy their job. Do you know what I mean? Like no sports reporter gets into this business like, oh, I hope I get to cover a team who loses every single game or can't beat a team with a winning record. No, you want to cover a team who is fun. You want to cover a team who is winning, and you want to cover a team who is going to the playoffs and has great storylines associated with that. The Bengals are a team who in the past has done really well when their backs were against the wall, like when they were totally doubted, they had chips on their shoulders. Even the year they went to the Super Bowl, like everybody doubted them. Everyone was saying like, there's no way this team is going to do well in the Super Bowl. They don't have the guys to do it. They don't have the making to do it. And the Cincinnati Bengals were like, watch me. Can they bring that to light again in 2024 in the final 6 games of the regular season? I would like to see that. I would be interested to see that. It would be fun. I'm all about fun. I love fun. I love fun when, especially in a sports capacity. I would like to see them sweep the Steelers in 2024. But they have to do even execute the fundamentals correctly. Just do that. I think the Steelers are overhyped. And I know Steelers fans might start watching this and just blow me up for that, but I do think the Steelers are overhyped. I think the Steelers have a lot of trouble in the red zone. Obviously, the red zone presents different issues for every team because the field is shortened, so you can't take certain angles. You can't do a lot of things. Like your ability to get into the end zone is limited. And I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are certainly a limited team when it comes to the red zone. I do think that Mike Tomlin will figure out a way to get them to pick themselves up after a brutal loss to Cleveland. And I think that they will come to Cincinnati on Sunday with their hair on fire. I do think that. I think that this is going to be an interesting game. I'm actually shocked that the Bengals opened up as favorites in this game. I think they're 3.5 point favorites the last time I looked. Also, side note, my friends, if you are attending this game, the high in Cincinnati on Sunday, a brisk 29 degrees. If I were you and I was standing out in that cold, I would be bringing foot warmers, hand warmers, a heated vest, a heated blanket if I could do it. Like, I am bringing the earmuffs, I'm bringing the hats, I'm bringing 2 coats. Like, I am not standing out in 29-degree weather and freezing my butt off for 3 hours. No, thank you. I told you I'm all about fun. That doesn't sound like fun to me. I will be warm in the press box, fortunately for me. But yeah, if you are attending this game, make sure you bundle up because it is going to be, I guarantee it is going to be freezing and windy. Very high chance of wind. I'm not a meteorologist. I haven't talked to any of my meteorologist friends in the news world, but typically when it's really, really cold, Cincinnati likes to give you some wind as well. So I think that the cold could also be a factor for the players. But we shall see. Joe Burrow, the grip that he has on that ball, he's going to have to keep his hands warm, keep their bodies warm, ready to play. So yeah, that's just an added factor that they have to this game. I'm just every single year, every single time the Bengals and the Steelers play, especially, I always hope that there are no injuries on either side, because we have seen where these two teams clash in such a way where players are knocked out of the game completely. Like the AFC wildcard game 2015 is like a perfect example because everyone was able to watch that. It was obviously in prime time and people were able to really see like what this rivalry is about. That game was insane. We had hair pulling, we had fighting, we had like hundreds of yards of penalties. We had players completely knocked out cold. Like we had beer cans being thrown at players from the fans. You know who you are. I mean, it's ugly between these two teams. So we shall see. Not in prime time. Also, that game on that Thursday night game was flexed if you were planning to go to that one. That was the Cleveland game, December 22nd. So obviously you probably know by now that that game was flexed out of Thursday Night Football. They will be playing on Sunday. So yeah, rearrange those travel plans if you haven't already, because that one is no longer on the schedule. So quite interesting. I think the Bengals could have made that really fun, really cool. I feel like Elizabeth Blackburn is really good at making sure that the environment for home primetime games is really cool, really fun. But they will not have that opportunity, and that is their own fault because they are 4-7. So can they go 1-0 this week? I know. I hate hearing players say that when I ask them, and they go, we're just trying to go 1-0 this week. I hate hearing them say that, but I also understand why they're saying that, what they mean by it. And now I'm saying it to you because it's a new season to me. I'm going to try my best not to reference the previous 11 games, even though it does have a very clear effect on where they go as far as the playoffs. But I'm tired of talking about it. And I'm sure you're tired of hearing about it. So let's just move on. How do they do in their second portion of the season? If you go to the game and you see me, shout me out. I'm like a head taller than everybody else. So if I'm on the field, you can probably spot me. And I will absolutely say hi. Let me know what your prediction is between the Bengals and the Steelers and what matchups you're looking forward to. Obviously, I've already said that the matchups that I'm really paying attention to are, how Zach Taylor's going to utilize Chase Brown. And also, I always pay attention to the trenches every week. But I think this week, especially a week where Trey Hendrickson is coming off some rest, I think we should I hope to see a vicious rushing attack from the Cincinnati Bengals. So we will see how that plays out. And obviously who takes care of the football better. Joe Burrow's been taking really good care of the football. So hopefully he keeps that up in week 13. I'll see you on Monday.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Deep in the Stripes with Elise Jesse on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.